Hey people, it's Anonymous, Aloe Nottingham. I'm just going to do a very quick repot video today. I was given this by my neighbour. It's an IKEA aloe vera plant, and what they seem to have done with it is overwater it, and let's see if that's showing there. There are roots coming out of the bottom of the pot. Now, they told me that they've been watering it every couple of days, and they told me that in a way is to say, we've been trying to look after it, we don't know what's going on. So I told them, obviously, it's an aloe vera, it's a succulent, so you need to do dry to wet to dry, i.e. you need to let the plant dry out before you water it again. Give it a thorough watering when you do, but don't let it sit in water for more than an hour or so. Let it soak some up and then throw the rest away, when you have a dish underneath. So this one, it's probably pot bound. I've not even taken it out of the pot yet, so I haven't actually assessed this plant. But it's got a nice big root coming out of the bottom. I don't know if I'm going to be able to extract that without damaging it, or I'm going to need to just chop it off. Either way is not a problem. I mean, you could have a completely bare rooted aloe vera and you could pot it, root it, and propagate it and so forth. But obviously it would be nice to keep that root if we can, because it will help with the growth of the plant. So without further ado, let's tuck into that and see what's going on. It's nice and loose in the pot, so there should be no issues here. So I don't know if I said, but what I was trying to say is that the roots are coming out of the bottom, then they've been sitting in water because they're watering them every day, or every other day. This seems to be coming out very nicely. There we go. Couldn't have asked for better, quite frankly. And if I were to turn that, be a little bit gentle, because, right, we can see that is fairly pot bound at the bottom. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not the worst I've seen. You could have roots coming all the way around here, but it is certainly enough where you would you want to repot it. And also, one thing I will say, I can't complain about the IKEA aloe vera plants for the price they are and so forth, even though I'd love to. I don't know the growing conditions, I don't know what they put in it and so forth, so I can't comment on any of that, and we can all imagine. But generally, price wise, quality wise, they're not doing badly. I'm not gonna make up negative comments. The one thing I will say, and the reason I've introed it like that, is the soil they use is not great. It's not very free draining. They do that intentionally so that they can water them, before they send them out, and then just essentially leave them. I don't know if I've ever seen plants that look watered in IKEA. I'm not trying to throw shade. It's just, I can't imagine trying to manage everything that they do, in a sense. All the plants, and their section's pretty extensive, and so yeah, the soil's not great. But what we are going to do, if you can see this soil here, it's pretty much 50% compost and 50 potting mix and 50% perlite. There is a bit of gravel mixed in, there is a bit of sand mixed in. I would normally do a good third, if not half, of sand. No, a third, because it would be a third perlite, third soil, and a third sand. But I don't have any sand at the minute, so just any kind of porous mix where it's, I'm literally trying to clump that, and you can see it's just falling apart, no matter how. It is very dry, admittedly, but even if this was soaking wet, if I were to go like this and then go like that, you can see it just, you cannot clump it. And that's the idea, because then it's very free draining. It's good for the roots. It won't let them sit in water too long. They don't like wet feet. And so, yeah. Now, some videos would say chop that up. Some people would say loosen up these roots. You could even chop off the bottom section of it. There's various ways you could do this. Frankly speaking, I'm just going to plonk this straight into a pot because I know it's going to do fantastically that way, and there's no need to really mess about. Now, if I were to completely remove all the soil, clean off the roots, then I'd also remove a leaf like this, for example, that's not going to recover in any way. But what I'll simply do is just leave that to as it is. Often I find when I repot aloe vera that the outer leaf or two, they rot away anyway, regardless of how well you've potted it. It just seems to be something that happens in my experience, like I would say 80% of the time, so it's fairly frequently. And so again, sometimes I will leave those roots on there so that they can be the fall guys, they can be the ones that are going to rot away anyway. And also to try and get this away right now, I don't want to disturb the entire structure, if you like, of the root ball, because other than them recently overwatering it and you know, leaving it in a pot-bound situation, it's a very healthy plant and it's going to come back just fine. I don't know how much the camera's picking up the difference between the green and the kind of leaves that have started to go brownish, but the ones that have only just tinged brown, they will revert pretty well to green. You'd have no issue, you wouldn't notice any difference. Leaves like this, they're not going to come back, that's gone. And this one would be interesting. I think this one's going to be gone because it's pretty much all brown, but again, it'd be interesting to see. So what I'm going to do is find a pot that's appropriate, and then we can get potting up. I don't want this to be a very long video, but I did want to give a bit of a comprehensive introduction into what's going on and what I'm going to be doing. I'm simply going to put this into a slightly larger pot. I could even chop this or strip the soil off the roots and repot it into the pot that it was in, but it's a fairly decent sized plant already, so I think it's ready to be moved on to a larger pot. I have a couple of possible pots here. I don't know how the perspective's picking up. This is the largest one. So if we were to, even if we were to sit that in there, it wouldn't be completely out of place, frankly. Your perspective on the camera isn't great. I'll try and show you. That would work. But because aloe vera like to stay dry, or dry quickly, I should say, the smaller the pot, the better, in a sense. Within reason, obviously, we're moving from the pot on the right, as you're looking at it, to the pot on the left, and so we are going bigger. But then I'm using this very, very gravelly mix, and so drainage won't be an issue. There's an argument that I should strip the soil and then make it all of this business, but I'm not too worried. It's grown this well in this, so you don't really need to be that picky. Again, this isn't an expert training video for aloe vera. This is a layperson's video, someone who's got an aloe vera at home. They're not sure what to do with it. They don't live in Nottingham, so they can't come round for our free repotting service, and so they'd like to do it themselves. It's for those guys. It's not, you know, for commercial or anything like that. So yeah, what I'm going to do is plant this aloe vera to one side, just off shot there for a second. I have my bigger pot, and I'm just going to, in fact, I will put a little bit of broken terracotta, old clay pot. Very common. I'm not teaching anyone anything new with that. But yeah, just give the pot a little clean, put that in the bottom, and then the idea is that it stops the drainage holes. Where's the light coming from? It stops the drainage holes getting blocked. And again, we don't want any kind of clogging issue. We don't want it sitting in water. So I'll just put that over there. You could use stones, you could use various things for that same purpose, but this will work just fine. And I'm just going to fill the pot with some of this potting mix, and the aim is, this couldn't be simpler, and to be honest, I'm being partly a little bit lazy with not stripping the plant with soil, of the soil around the roots, but it just doesn't need that intensity. I just know from experience that it's the difference in growth if I did that, and the difference in, and if I don't do that and just keep it as it is so minimal that it's just not worth the extra effort. So what I'm doing is I've got the big pot, put the little pot inside it, and I'm just going to quickly fill around with soil, and then the idea is you literally just sit the pot into the hole and it fits perfectly, and then you can just bed it in, just squeeze it down a little bit. So very quickly, try not to keep you too long. I may even speed this portion up if I'm feeling extra technical, but I wouldn't hold your breath. To be honest with you, it's not going to take me more than a second, because as you can see, it's a very quick process. You can just throw it in there virtually, and obviously anything that's going into the middle pot, that's just going to get removed in a second, as you'll see. It's a pretty magic technique. I mean, my father showed me this when I was about 4 or 5 years old, but I have seen it getting more popular on reels and trending on Instagram and so forth. And so again, this is fairly common knowledge. I don't think I'm teaching you anything new with this, but if I am, then happy days. And so all I'm doing is very gently pressing it down with my finger. I could go a bit harder, but the idea is you fill it to the top, plonk the plant in so that it's pretty much level, and then you can squeeze round and you'll actually tuck the plant into bed if you like. And I find it easier to overfill at this stage than trying to pick around the leaves and the plants later. Obviously you can do that too, and I can repot pretty much any kind of aloe vera, but this video is trying to make it easy for people, quite simple. So at the minute it's completely near the rim. You wouldn't normally want the soil to that level. Now is one thing you can do that I've learned recently is just give it a little tap from every direction. It helps it settle a little bit. If there are any pockets where it hasn't filled in properly, that would help. And just going to pull that out. Now, yes, that hole is pretty much showing on the video. I don't want to move it because then obviously the walls, may cave in. But I've got a perfectly sized hole there. I'm just going to grab the aloe vera plant and literally just drop it straight into there. Now, there's many people who are going to be screaming at the screen, perhaps, that I should have untangled the roots, I should have disturbed the roots, I should have cut them. There's just no need. It's grown like this, and like I say, this recent damage is all done by the owner of the plant. They told me themselves, so I'm not throwing any shade or anything. That's what we're here for. Aloe Nottingham, we're here to show people what to do with their aloe vera plants, how to take care of them better, etc. So now I've put that in there. I'm just going to push the actual root ball in a little bit further to tuck it in. And at the minute, you can see a bit of a difference between my outer potting mix and the plant potting mix. Now, if you pay attention, within a couple of minutes, you'll notice that that will pretty much disappear. Because obviously we want the plant to look nice for the customer, even if it isn't one of our plants. Hint, hint. And so, I'll be frank with you, at the minute, I wouldn't have any of this shape and style in stock. And so again, I can jokingly throw shade, but I don't mean it. I myself have probably told people to go to IKEA in the past, because the simple point is they're the most consistent, with a selection and a variety and so forth. Like, they have two choices. They're around, unless it's changed, it's around the £4 and the £8 mark, for a smaller bunch or a larger plant. So now that's looking pretty perfect. Now, ordinarily, what I would do is I would cover the top with my potting mix as well. I would have put it in a little bit deeper, but I have another plan for this plant because I'm handing it back to a customer who has recently bought a plant off me. So again, I was only kidding about the whole hint thing. I'm more than happy to look after people's aloe vera plants for nothing. I started the business on a free repotting service, and frankly I enjoy doing it as well. As the business expands, obviously my time or has expanded, my time has become more and more limited. But this is a friend and a neighbour anyway, so it's literally no issue. The reason I've left the gap here and I haven't covered it over with perlite is because I'm just going to use some is it 4mm gravel, literally just from Wicks. People buy horticultural gravel and this, and don't get me wrong, if you're into your bonsai and you're making it decorative, I'm not hating on it, but I'm not into spending £10 on a bag of stones when I can get it for £2.50, £3. And so I just use very normal stones, and once you water them, once you water the plant with the stones in, they kind of freshen up. The sand, the dusty whatever it is, just washes away, and they look very, very nice. And so all I'm going to do is I just had this pot lying around anyway. I'm just going to decorate the outer part of the plant with the stones. And what I find is this does a few things. A, it just beautifies it, the aesthetic. B, it actually, when you're watering, it seems to spread the water more evenly, and so you can actually either pour it in a bit quicker, or you can just sort of rest assured that it isn't just just piling down in one place. It's being spread out a bit more, which is what you want. I'm going to need a few more stones, and I like to make sure it's pretty much completely covered. I think for me this also ties in with the wood chip gardening and the Back to Eden stuff, where in nature soil is never uncovered, ground is never uncovered. It's only where humans have been and basically uncovered it, either intentionally or unintentionally. And so so one of the reasons is it beautifies it. Secondly, it evens out the watering. Thirdly, I had a guy tell me years ago that when the babies pop up, the pups, because they have to fight a little bit harder to get through the surface or past the surface, they grow a little bit stronger and heftier. Now, there is a double-edged sword to that, because if you put too many stones, or too big a stones, or too thick a layer, then they have to fight so much that when you remove the stones in the pup, the stalky part at the very bottom of the plant, the stalk of the plant, the stalky part, the stalk of the plant, has actually had to grow long and gangly, and it's usually a white, spindly stalk to get through the stones to get enough space and light to grow. But with a layer like this, when you see the babies emerging, if you start to remove the stones, they do come through pretty plump and pretty happily. Just going to turn this around to check the other side. You can see there's a little bit here which hasn't been covered. I'm just going to dress that in, and we're pretty much done with this. So that is a basic and simple repot of an aloe vera plant. As I said, there's many other things I could have done if I wanted it to be more advanced, but I simply don't see the need for this. There's just, as you know, I'll try and keep an update, keep track of the progress of this plant. As I say, it's a neighbour, so it shouldn't be too difficult. And you know, we do have contact outside of just the plants or what have you. So yeah, now that is a job pretty much finished. Now if we give that a quick swirl, now I can see a little bit of soil popping its head out there. I'm simply just going to remove that rather than trying to put another stone there. In fact, no, soil correction, I'll grab another stone, just stick it in there. If we're going to make it look pretty, let's make it all look pretty. And yeah, that's a finished job. So it's got the clay or terracotta pot broken piece at the bottom, potting mix all the way up, stones at the top. It's pretty perfectly centered, completely vertical. I think that's a great job. So in order to not make the video, and it's already longer than I wanted it to be, I'm going to end it there. I hope you've gained something from that. If you have any questions, obviously don't hesitate, pop them in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching. Happy aloe, peace out.